Hello, this is John Zimmerman with Table Rock Trout Unlimited. We are continuing our fly tying video series with a number of easy to tie flies that absolutely catch fish everywhere we go. This is going to be a Soft Hackle Pheasant Tail in our wild water fish series. And we're going to tie this on with a Daiichi number 1720 long shank nymph hook, and we've just got a 3.0 millimeter brass bead on this bug. No real reason to tie this in tungsten. If you want to tie some in tungsten, that is certainly a great way to get it down, but we often use this fly as a dropper off of a dry fly, and a big old tungsten bead on there is going to sink that dry fly pretty quickly. So at least I fish this with a brass bead instead of a tungsten bead, and since it's going to be a soft tackle, we kind of want it riding in the bouncing along in the water column instead of right down on the bottom to give that emergence effect. So let's go ahead and start tying this. I'm going to tie it with red thread. You can tie it with brown, wine colored. If you want to add an orange hot spot with some fluorescent orange thread, you should feel totally free to do that too. And once you've got the thread secure, either break or go in with your scissors and get that fly or get that tag in. So I am tying this with a dyed brown pheasant tail. So you can get pheasant tail in a number of different colors, dyed from purple to pink to red, natural. And since this is not one of the center tails, I've got all of these feathers on the alternate side of the feather that are not very useful for tying pheasant tails for the body. They're really brittle feathers. They're just not, and they don't have the kind of sheen that you can see on the other side. So I saved these for creating shellbacks or creating the wing case on hare's ears or even pheasant tails. If I'm going to tie them without flash, I'll use this side for that. But for the purposes of tying the body and the tail of the pheasant tail, you want to use the side that's got a lot more color to it and a lot more flash than that duller side. So I'm going to reach in. I'm going to stroke these back to even up these tail fibers as much as I can, and then I'm going to go in and clip them. Just kind of stroke them a little bit to get them in line. And the length of the tail is a massive debate in fly tying. Some folks say you want it to be the length of the hook. Some folks say you want it to be the length of the gap. I usually, on a long shank, will go about half the length of the shank of the hook. You don't want a really long tail, but something that you're not going to cover up when you tie in the soft hackles is important too. So what you can do is, after you make a couple, if it's a little long, like I feel that's a little bit long right there, go ahead and just pull them into place where you want them, and that's about perfect. About perfect for me. The next thing that we're going to tie in is some small copper wire, and if you're using small copper wire, you can do what I'm going to do here and break it. I do not like putting my scissors through pain by cutting wire with them. So we're going to take this copper wire and jam it up here into the bead to help it set. It'll help us set the bead, as well as another thing that I'm going to show you that I always do when I am tying, which is use the waste material that you would normally cut off to help you build up the body of the fly. So that waste material certainly does have some use besides just cutting it right off. Now that we've got our wire tied in, we've got our pheasant tail tied in, we're going to simply, if you've got a rotary vise, just spin these pheasant tail fibers up to the front of the fly. I am a proponent of skinny nymphs. I do not like my nymphs to be really big and fat and bulky, so I'm a big proponent of skinny nymphs. If you get one that goes astray, you can just pinch it off back there, and all we're going to do is 2 wraps in front to cement in, and then a couple wraps behind and a couple wraps in front. Those wraps in front of the tile point will really nail those fibers down, and they're not going anywhere after that. And this guy that did get away from me, all I'm going to do is go in here and clip him close. Now we're going to take our copper wire and run it up to the top and make a couple securing wraps there at the top, a couple in front, a couple behind, and that's secure. Now again, I'm going to break this so that I don't put my scissors through the paces of clipping the wire. The next item that we're going to tie in is our peacock curl. My dad used to say when I was growing up learning to tie flies, if a fly did not have peacock curl in it, you needed to start over. And peacock curl is a strong element in the pheasant tail. All varieties of it. You could certainly use ice dubbing, especially if you wanted a different color for the thorax here. But pheasant tail is, or peacock curl is extremely traditional here. So we're going to tie in, I've got 3 strands here, which will help me make this go a little bit faster than just trying to do 1 or 2 strands to get the bulk of this taken care of. So these strands, they may lay nicely together when you want to wrap them, but if you'll take them and just kind of spin them together in your thumb a little bit, you'll get a little bit of a braid, and this will go much faster for you if you spin those together a little bit. Now that we've got that in, we're going to do 1 wrap behind and then 2 wraps in front, and our peacock curl is secured. You could use any number of things for your soft hackle on this, from partridge to some of the webby parts of the skin of a pheasant tail, or the skin of a pheasant. I'm going to use starling. I'm going to pull off a big starling feather and use it. Unlike most people who tie their soft hackles in by the tips, I tie my soft hackles in by the butts, especially when I'm using starling, because I want to get these bigger feathers going into the fly. And what you want to make sure you do is the curvature of the feather needs to be downward instead of upward. So when you're tying this in, make sure the curvature of the feather is down instead of up. I'm going to do 2 wraps in behind the tie-in point and 2 wraps in front. Now it is highly possible that this is going to come out on me as I wrap. If it does, it's no big deal. We'll just start over and retie it. So go in and grab this with your hackle pliers and start making a couple wraps back and over. And each time, if you give those fibers a pull, they will lay back better for you. No more than 2 wraps. If you make more than 2 wraps, you're going to have too much going on. It will start to obscure the body of the fly. It'll definitely obscure the thorax. But you want just enough to imitate life and imitate movement there. Too much. That's one of the things that I see in folks' soft hackles all the time, is they just put way too many turns of soft hackle on there. But that's just about perfect. For me, I like for my soft hackles to go right back to the end of the body. But if we had put too many fibers on here, when they're doing this, they're going to obscure the look of the pheasant tail, and we don't want to do that. So just enough soft hackles there on it to give it a little bit of movement and breathability in the water. We're going to finish this off with a couple of 4 or 5 turn whip finishes, and this fly is done. If I had to choose one fly to fish for the rest of my life, it would be a soft hackle pheasant tail. I catch so many fish on this fly all year long. I tied it in a 14 for these purposes so that you would be able to see it a little bit better in the video. But I tie these all the way down to 20s in pheasant tails and wreck fish on them everywhere I go. Again, if you notice the red in the collar at the top, that's a great color for hot spots. Fluorescent orange is a great color for hot spots. If you want it really natural and you don't want any additional stuff going on, you could certainly tie it in brown and it would not show up very much, but I am also a big proponent of hot spots. So stay tuned for future episodes of fly tying with Table Rock Trout Unlimited, and we'll get you on some bogs that produce fish all year long. Happy tying!